Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' books. So this is basically like Blackathon wrap-up part 1. This is some of the books that I have read for Blackathon. I am in the middle of a different one and I have 2 others to pick up from the library. Also, I had a book to discuss that I totally forgot about in my last like 1 or 2 recent wrap-ups, but basically at the end of last year I started Queen of the Conquered by Calendar, and then I did not finish it. I DNF'd it at the beginning of January, and I didn't talk about it at all. So yeah, that's a book that I read, or a book that I read 50% of before I DNF'd. This is, I would say, adult fantasy or new adult fantasy. I don't think the character is a teenager. Maybe she is, actually. Yeah, no, I think she was a teenager. I don't know. At any rate, it's fantasy. It's a Caribbean-inspired world. There's magic and fun things like that. Our main character saw her family slaughtered as a child. This is in like the synopses and shit for it. She was in exile, hiding, and she came back later and I won't give spoilers, but she gained some power in a fashion in this very racist, oppressive world. So it's a big old revenge plot. That's the whole point of it, is her getting revenge. And yeah, I read 50% of it, and I wasn't necessarily hating anything, but first of all, really nothing had happened. I mean, obviously, and a lot of something I just personally really hate, and that is this repetition of theme over and over again, beating your head over it with the theme. And the whole thing was this main character was in a position of power, but like begrudgingly. She was begrudgingly given this power, and all the other people in power in the world are white and basically think less of her. So it's this like, I have this revenge plot, and in order to do this, I have to participate in this oppressive society, and I'm oppressing my own people, but in her head, you know, she's like, it's for a purpose. There's an end goal here. But holy God, over and over again, she doesn't get the same level of respect as the other important people. When people hate her, the white people hate her. How is she's stuck in the middle? FYI, did you know she's not well liked? Her own people don't like her. The white people don't like her. Nobody likes her, but she doesn't care. She'll get her revenge in the end. But in the meantime, just in case you forgot, nobody likes her on either side. And it's just over and over and over and over some more. And I just couldn't. And yeah, like I said, 50% of the way through and hardly any progress had been made toward her goals, and like nothing really had happened other than her just constantly ruminating about how everybody hates her because of XYZ thing and whatever. And so yeah, the pacing just wasn't working for me, so I DNF'd it. And for Blackathon, the first thing I completed is Shuri, Volume 1, The Search for Black Panther. Wow. Okay, excuse me. And this is by Nnedi Okorafor, and I quite liked it. It's obviously a comic book, YA. T'Challa is gone, and Shuri has to like figure shit out. Some of the plot stuff felt very meandering and random, and like, why are we doing this? I don't read a lot of comics though, so I don't know if that's just a thing, because you know, they go on for a long time. They're very episodic. At any rate, some of the stuff felt super random. On my 1 to 10, I gave it 6.5, which translates to 3 Pushinicorns. And then I read on Hoopla, so it was on my phone, Quincredible by Rodney Barnes, another comic book, YA. This one is set in New Orleans, like in a modern setting. A meteor hit semi-recently and left certain people with some special powers. And our main character, Quinn, he doesn't realize at first that he has the powers, and then he like thinks that he does, but he's not really sure what the heck to do about it and what he can do with these powers. I personally thought this was a pretty fun time. I'm not familiar with the larger world. Some of the reviews like mentioned the larger world in this and like different characters, and being annoyed with that, or I don't know. I am not really sure. I thought this was a fun time though, and I really liked the larger conversation about how systemic oppression can create an environment basically where people are desperate, and you might have bad guys who are stealing things or committing various crimes, that they just don't really have another choice, or they don't see another choice. They don't see another way out of this shitty life that they've been given. They're basically doing bad things as an act of survival in this system of oppression. And in the comic, it kind of talks about this, and we have our main character who sees this and recognizes this. He lives in these communities and he sees firsthand how things are. So when he starts being, a hero, he kind of struggles with, if he goes and saves someone from their store being robbed, now these two kids that maybe he goes to school with, now they're getting arrested. And is that going to help anything in the long run? You know what I mean? And so it's a conversation, I guess, about rehabilitation versus just constantly disciplining people and never giving them any other way out or any other option. And it's a comic book, so it didn't delve super, super deep into it, but I just thought that was really cool that was even in there. And I think it's an important conversation to be had, with our prison system and everything, and just our justice system in general. Of course, you need to be able to discipline people, but shouldn't you also want to rehabilitate them so that they don't keep doing the same things over and over again because they don't know anything else or they don't see another way out of this, another way of surviving, It just didn't seem like a typical superhero vibe, and I appreciated the uniqueness of that. So on my 1 to 10, I gave this a 7, which translates to 4 pushinicorns. And I have a DNF for Blackathon, which if you follow me on Goodreads or Twitter, I might have talked about it on Twitter. At any rate, you'll be aware already. The second book in the Orisha Legacy trilogy, I think is what it's called, Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I pre-ordered this and I got it when it came out last fall and just picked it up. And I didn't care for it. YA fantasy, African, particularly Yoruba, I believe. Yes, Yoruba specifically, inspired world. I got about 30% of the way into it, and I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't vibing with it. It was a quick read, the 30% that I did get through didn't take me long to get through, but I wasn't having a good time. And okay, I read 30% of this, right? And then I went back and I decided to DNF and I went and I read chapter by chapter synopses for basically the whole book, right? And I went back and read the chapter synopses for the chapters I had read because something happened that I was like, what the fuck? We have a character who at the end of the last book, a few characters die, or you think they're dead, or you don't know if they're dead, it's a few. And in the beginning of this, one of these characters, they come back, they were just chilling in the dream world, and a different character, goes to the dream world and sees them, and they fight, and then the person who was in the dream world originally wakes up in a completely different place than where they were when they were, slain. And I was like, what? How did they get there? They went across the land? And there was no explanation of this. And they wake up, they come to in this other place that they weren't before, and all the people around them are like, oh good, you're awake now. We were worried. How did they get there? How did this person get here? What the hell? And it was not explained, at least, like I said, from what I read, and then I read the chapter synopsis, and to what I saw, it was not fucking explained. If you read this book and you're like, Jashana, you're an idiot, it was very obviously explained. Please direct message me on Twitter or Instagram or something, because I was so fucking confused. It was never explained. And yeah, once I read the whole synopsis, I'm not mad that I didn't read it. Seemed like a lot of tedious just stuff that I wouldn't care about. And I think this is simply a case of it being YA and being a little bit more juvenile as far as some of the character work, some of the things that the characters are doing and how they're feeling. They're young, and it's totally acceptable and fine and valid that they feel and act the way that they do. And sometimes I can connect with that as an older reader. I'm not in the YA age range. I'm not the target audience. And some YA I really like. You guys know this. I read a fair amount of YA and enjoy it. But then every now and then I come across some that I'm just like, I'm not the target audience, I think. I'm not in the correct age range to really connect with this like I think the author wants you to connect with it. And then I picked up Rejected Princesses, Tales of History's Boldest Heroines, Hellions, and Heretics by Jason Perath. And this was a fun time. It's kind of like a coffee table book almost, but it does have text, you know. It has these super cute, fun little pictures of different characters, and something that is really cool about this, there is this whole page with content warnings. So the way it's organized in the book is maturity level 1 is at the front of the book, maturity level 5 is the stories at the back of the book. And then within that, each of these maturity levels could have these content warnings for violence, abuse, sex, rape, or self-harm. And I just thought that was really cool. And so then each story will have, like right here, it says maturity level 3, violence, and abuse. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty cool that was in there. And, you know, that's been a conversation on book Twitter a lot about should trigger warnings or content warnings be a thing? And I'm just like, why not? Movies have content warnings. Music has content warnings. It's not censorship. You're literally just letting people know, like, hey, this is some content that's in here that, like, of course, certain people have very specific triggers. You know, I've known people who certain words trigger them. Words that are very commonly used words that don't mean anything negative. Yeah, obviously, like a racial slur or something like that would trigger someone. But I'm talking about just like common words that people use that don't mean anything malicious. They're very benign words, but per this person's experience in life, they just personally have like an issue with it. And it's something that they have to work through in therapy and get over, because they're like, I can't expect people to not say this word around me ever when it's just a common ass word. But there are things that, like, we all know a lot of people might have an issue with. Depictions of rape. That's a very common thing for people to need a content warning for. Depictions of abuse, depictions of child abuse, some depictions of graphic sex or graphic violence or self-harm, like this book mentions. Like, those are things that it's like common sense that a lot of people could be triggered by that or just could be really uncomfortable with and not want to read about. Why the fuck is it a big deal to just be like, hey, this is in here? It's not that hard. I don't know. I just don't understand why it can't be more of a thing. At any rate, I'm ranting now. I've gotten off topic. But yeah, I just thought this was like really cool. Like, see these pictures? Really cool artwork. Very cool stories. Some of them, I'm not gonna lie, I skimmed a little bit where I was like, okay, I don't care that much. But it's just super diverse. It's talking about people that you might not have heard about, people throughout history, some of which are just myths and legend, some of which have real historical evidence, all different countries around the world, different cultures around the world. The writing style was kind of like, sometimes it was like very like, I'm being silly and comical, which I didn't hate, but sometimes it got a little like cheesy, kind of, you know. Oh, on my 1 to 10, I gave that 6.83, which is 3.5 Pushinicorns. And next up for Blackathon, I picked up this copy I have of Lilith's Brood by Octavia E. Butler. So this is a bind up of a series, which is Dawn, Adulthood Rights, and Imago. I read Dawn and really liked it. Really enjoyed it, was very intrigued, super interesting. And then I started reading Adulthood Rights, and I liked it, but towards the end I was kind of not feeling it. And then I started reading Imago, and I just got kind of bored. So I DNF'd Imago. So I broke it down into each book as far as like rating them. But yeah, basically this is adult sci-fi. We have alien beings who find Earth after a major, like, just global world war. We basically destroyed ourselves, destroyed the planet, and there's very few humans left, and these alien creatures come down, take the humans, and start trying to like let the planet heal. And centuries go by, and Lilith, our main character, basically wakes up 250 years later, I want to say, and on this alien ship, and they're like, hey, we're gonna train you, and you're gonna awaken other humans and prepare them for seeing us because we're crazy looking, according to humans. And then we're gonna fuck with your genetics and send y'all back down to Earth. And basically this alien race, this alien, I don't know, community, whatever, they are able to alter genetic material, and they have a very real, very deep need to heal things, to heal planets, to heal other races, other beings, other creatures, whatever. Like they can't not do it. So that's why, like, their motivation is just like, it's part of who they are to do this. But they consider it like a trade. They find these planets and they do a trade, and it's a genetic trade where they're mixing the genetics. So they're altering whatever creatures are on that planet, and they're altering themselves. And so they're very fascinated with humans' cancer. Because to them, it's super interesting. It is altering genetic material, but obviously for humans, it like kills us. But they see it as like a power that we have that we aren't able to control, and they want to like study it and whatever. So anyways, that's like the overall premise of this. And it was so interesting at first. I really, really enjoyed just getting to see the characters, the aliens. So obviously, I mean, from the description, you can probably imagine we have themes of colonization, eugenics, oppressive societies, and kind of, it's like the colonized people here are humans, and there's a conversation, I guess, about them coming to terms with the fact that this is happening, and that they don't have a whole hell of a lot of choice because of the extreme difference in power dynamics. And basically, without the help of the aliens, the Oankali is what they're called, without the Oankali's help, humans would already have died. Like, the human race would already be gone and annihilated from the universe. And they know that without their continued help, that'll just happen again. So it's like coming to terms with like these things that are happening to them and kind of being forced to make these choices. They have to agree to this trade or die off again. And they're definitely being coerced, and part of like the Oankali's like abilities is basically to coerce other beings into doing things. And convince them that like they want to do it, you know what I mean? And it's a little weird and creepy and uncomfortable at times, and I think it's supposed to be. So yeah, I don't know, lots of those conversations, and it was very interesting. And then, like I said, adulthood rights. I started to fall off with my interest a little bit, and then Imago happened, and I kind of was over it, I guess. So Dawn, the first one on my 1 to 10, I gave that a 6.83, which is 3.5 Pushinicorns. And then Adulthood Rights, I gave a 6.5, which is 3 Pushinicorns. And then I DNF'd Imago. And there we have it. Those are the current books to talk about for part 1 of my wrap-up for Blackathon. If you have read any of these, please let me know what your thoughts were down below. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.